Humans are endlessly peculiar beings. Don't you agree? I tilted the glass, letting the glowing blue liquid swirl. 3 of my 4 eyes studied Admiral Voxana, while the 4th kept its constant vigil scanning for unseen dangers, instincts from war. Never truly vanish. Peculiar. Admiral Voxana gave a harsh laugh through her nasal slits. I have always considered them more nuisance than marvel. We stood upon the observation deck of the Galactic Council's flagship, the Eternal Dominion beneath. Us, the galaxy's mightiest fleet, assembled for the imminent conflict, and at its very core, a single human woman. The notion alone still sent shivers along my spinal ridge's nuisance. That's like describing a black hole as a little heavy. I motioned toward the command vessel with my drinking limb. 10 cycles ago, humans were considered little more than our property, and now we march behind one into war. The cosmos enjoys its cruel jokes. Vox, you crossed paths with her before, didn't you back, when she wore her shackles? Vox murmured, his voice lowering, though no one else was near. I inclined my head slowly. Oh yes, I knew Lyra Talos, back when she was recorded only as Human Asset 7, 291, before she became whatever she is now. Vox pressed, leaning forward, all 6 of his eyes shuddering in turn. Speak, then. So I did the first time I laid eyes on Lyra Talos. She was coated in the crimson grit of Proxima's mines. Humans weren't. Considered worthwhile assets, then they lacked the raw might of the Krell, the mechanical genius of the Valari, or the mental gifts of my own kind. The Zith, what they did possess was stamina and adaptability. They could endure conditions fatal to most intelligent species, making them ideal for the most grueling and toxic labors in the galaxy. I was stationed as a security officer at the Proxima mining compound, my task to ensure the human assets remained. Here's your passage rewritten with the same tone, theme, and word count preserved, working in keeping order. Nothing complicated, usually strike one when they slowed. Make an example of rebels, collect my pay, repeat rise, 7,291. The overseer, a hulking Krell named Gross, cracked his electro-whip across. The human female who had fallen in the shafts 10 minutes left until shift change. You will labor through every breath of it. The human gave no scream that struck me first. Most humans wailed when the lash struck them. This one only stiffened. Then pushed herself upright slowly with purpose, her eyes vivid green beneath the red grit of her face, fixed on Gross. "Yes, Overseer," she murmured, too soft. A chill rippled through my neural threads. "What was that meat?" Gross growled, his massive bulk looming over her. But I said yes, Overseer, this time stronger. Yet her gaze did not break. Gross snorted approval and strode on. I stayed behind, watching as 7,291 raised her mining tool, the grip not merely for toil, but as though testing its weight. Judging if it could serve beyond its intended use. Caught my eye, you human. I approached once Gross had lumbered down the shaft. Your designation again, Asset 7,291, Sir Flat. No inflection yet. Her eyes sharp, relentless, calculating, always calculating how long assigned to this mine. A pause. 3 standard years, sir, that jolted me. Most humans endured scarcely 8 months in the Proxima pits before dust or despair consumed them. 3 years, astonishing your name before captivity. I wasn't sure why I asked. We were forbidden to admit assets had once lived as people. Another pause, longer this time than Lyra. Lyra Talos. Well, Lyra Talos, I murmured, lowering my voice. Advice for survival: don't stare at grease like that again. If you wish to keep breathing. The corner of her mouth twitched upward. Not quite a smile. Something darker. Thank you for your concern, sir. I walked on, unsettled in ways I could not name. Only later did I realize why her gaze at Greece carried neither fear nor hatred, but that of a predator, sizing prey. Wait, Vox cut in. You claim you noticed her potential back then. Why not report it, Vox? I admitted reluctantly. Continue 6. Months passed before I crossed paths with Lyra Talos again. By then I'd been promoted to Chief of Security for the northeastern quadrant of the mine, the advancement earned after I foiled an escape attempt by 3 human assets, foiled being generous. I simply got lucky. One triggered an alarm, and my squad was close. The 3 were publicly executed, of course, standard protocol. An example had to be made. I did not rest easily for weeks afterward, not out of care for the humans, but because something in it felt wrong. The escape route they'd chosen was needlessly intricate. The timing illogical, and the humans involved were fresh arrivals, not the desperate veterans who usually risked escape. I was combing security records late one cycle, when Asset 7, D1. Lyra was escorted to my office. She'd been caught pilfering rations from the commissary, a minor crime typically punished with reduced meals. Yet any breach of protocol warranted inquiry. Leave us. I ordered the guards when they hesitated, added she's bound and I am armed. Go alone. I studied her. She appeared stronger than before, healthier impossible given Proxima's conditions. Why steal food when you clearly aren't starving? I asked directly. She met my gaze without wavering. The new arrivals in Block D are being starved. They won't survive a month on current allotments. I blinked all 4 eyes in surprise. And you care? Because corpses don't mind tritium, sir. A flawless, practical response, yet her eyes revealed more. You aren't telling me everything, 7. 291. I leaned back. You know, the penalty for theft. Yes, sir. Reduced rations for 3 cycles, which defeats the purpose of stealing for others, doesn't it? Something flickered across her face. Surprise, yes, sir? I made a decision, then one that would reshape history, though I could not have known it. I will log this as clerical error. You were transferring food on Supervisor Tarn's orders paperwork. Lost her muscles tensed within the restraints. Why? Because corpses don't mind tritium? I echoed. And because I believe you're worth more alive than punished. She studied me at length. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet, human. I will be watching you. I unlocked her restraints. Leave my office. Unease clung to me. Had I doomed myself, or finally made the right choice? Vox's eyes widened. You helped her. That borders on treason, please. I scoffed. I bent a minor rule over a trivial infraction. And besides, I gestured to the view screen where Lyra's flagship filled the display. History proved me correct, didn't it? Vox muttered about revisionism, but urged me on what I didn't realize. Then what none of us did was that Lyra Talos had been sowing rebellion since her first day on Proxima. The stolen food wasn't mere charity. It was loyalty. Forged a network formed, discerning which humans could be trusted, which were too broken, and which might betray for extra rations. The mine disaster struck 4 months later. A blast in the lowest shafts killed 23 workers, 18 humans, and 5 Valeri engineers. It was deemed equipment failure, tragic, yet not suspicious, except I oversaw security, and the details stank the timing. The exact tunnel, the failed containment doors, it all felt deliberate. My quiet investigation turned. Unsettling the dead weren't random. The humans were known informants, snitches, trading survival for betrayal. The Valeri engineers, infamous for cruelty toward humans. Someone had chosen them. I scanned hours of footage, days before the blast. Endless. Monotony. Until I saw her. Lyra, subtle conversations, brief exchanges across shifts. A word. Here. A nod there. Nothing actionable yet. I knew she was behind it. I summoned her again. The accident in Tunnel 27, I said as she entered. It wasn't. An accident. Her face unreadable. Sir, me don't play dumb Talos, it doesn't suit you. I stood up and circled my desk until I was standing directly in front of her. Every human who died was an informant. Every Valari was a known abuser. That's not coincidence. Perhaps the universe has a sense of justice after all, she replied calmly. Justice, I hissed. You call murdering 23 sentient beings justice? For the first time, I saw real emotion on her face, anger, cold and hard. You call what happens in these mines justice. You call enslaving an entire species justice. That's not the same, isn't it? She cut me off. How many humans have died in these mines since you have been head of security? Zorlak hundreds, thousands did. You hold an investigation for each of them. Did you? Care. Why they died as long as the tritium kept flowing, I had no answer for that. You are right. She continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. It wasn't an accident. It was an execution. And it's just the beginning. In that moment, I should have called the mining accident guards, and her arrested, interrogated, executed. That's what protocol demanded. That's what would have protected the facility, the company, the established order. Instead, I found myself asking, why are you telling me this? You must know I could have you killed with a single word. Lyra smiled. Then a genuine smile that transformed her dust-streaked face, because you have had suspicions about me for months yet. Here I stand, you are curious, Zorlak. You want to see what I will do next. She wasn't wrong, besides, she added. You are not like the others. You see us as people, flawed logic for a security officer, but excellent quality and a potential ally. I'm not your ally, I said quickly, too quickly. Not yet. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. When the time comes, remember. This conversation, remember, you had a choice. I let her go. Again, 2 weeks later, the northeastern quadrant of the Proxima mining facility erupted in carefully coordinated chaos, power outages, false alarms, communications blackouts, and in the confusion, 300 human assets vanished along with 4 transport ships, a cargo hauler full of supplies, and enough weapons to start a small war, leading them. Lyra Talos, of course, I was interrogated for. Days, how had I not seen this coming? How had my security measures failed so completely? Was I incompetent or complice? Potential as a weapons security chief, Zorlak, she said, her voice carrying easily across the now quieting room. Or, should I say, former security chief Commander Talosi replied with a formal bow. It's been a long time. A smile played at the corners of her mouth, not long enough for some. I imagine her gaze shifted to Vox Admiral Tana. Thank you both for coming. Vox performed the traditional greeting of his species, a complicated gesture involving all 6 of his eyes blinking in sequence, the Valeri. Hegemony stands ready to assist, Commander. Glad to hear it, Lyra said. Though her tone suggested she placed little faith in Valeri promises, please join us. We were just discussing the Devourer's approach vector. The Devourers, even the name, sent ripples of unease through my neural pathways. They had appeared from the depths of uncharted space 2 cycles ago, massive hive-minded entities that consumed everything in their path, planets, ships, space stations, asteroids. It didn't matter, all became fuel for their endless hunger. Conventional weapons barely slowed them. Diplomacy was impossible. They either couldn't or wouldn't communicate. They simply came, consumed, and continued. The latest intelligence suggests they will reach the Arcturus system within 30 standard hours. Lyra continued, zooming in on a solar system near the edge of council space. If Arcturus falls, they will have a clear path to 3 major population centers, including Valari Prime. Vox noted, all 6 of his eyes widening slightly, and my home world, Zith Major. I added quietly. Lyra nodded exactly, which is why we are making our stand at Arcturus. She manipulated the hologram, showing the positioning of the Allied fleet. We have assembled the largest combined force in galactic history, 400 capital. Ships over 1,000 support vessels and enough firepower to reduce a planet to ash. And yet you look troubled, Commander. I observed those green eyes met mine again, because it won't be enough. Zorlak, not as we are, rippled through the assembled representatives. What do you mean, not as we are? Demanded a Krell general, his voice like gravel. This is the combined might of the galaxy's greatest powers, the greatest powers that have spent the last millennium fighting each other instead of preparing for an external threat, Lyra countered. Our weapon systems are incompatible, our tactical doctrines contradict each other, half the ships in. The Devourer threat, this fleet can't even communicate directly with the other half because of encryption and language barriers. The Krell huffed in indignation, but didn't argue further. She was right, and everyone knew it. "So what do you propose, Commander?" Vox asked Lyra, straightened, surveying the room integration, complete tactical and communications integration across all vessels. Standardized command protocols, unified fire control systems, impossible. Someone shouted from the back. The technical challenges alone would take years to overcome, not with what I have. Lyra replied calmly. She reached into her pocket and produced small data crystal, holding it up for all to see. This contains advanced integration protocols developed by human engineers. With this, we can link our fleets in hours, not years, but the room erupted in protests and questions give control of their military systems to human technology, allow potential backdoor access to their most powerful weapons. Unthinkable. I watched Lyra's face as the chaos unfolded. She didn't look surprised or disappointed. She looked patient, like someone who had expected exactly this reaction and was merely waiting for it to run its course. Eventually, Vox raised his voice above the Dean. "And why should we trust human technology with our most sensitive systems, Commander? Talos, your people have ample reason to seek revenge. Against many in this room, a fair question, the kind I might have asked in his position." Lyra's response was simple: "Because if you don't, we all die today. It's your home world's at risk tomorrow. It will be ours. The Devourers don't care about our history or our grudges. They don't distinguish between humans, Valerie, Zith, or Krell. To them, we are all just food." Her words brought a tense silence to the room. "Besides," she added, with a hint of that predatory smile, "I remembered if I wanted revenge, I wouldn't need software backdoors to get it." I couldn't help but chuckle at that. She always did have a flair for the dramatic. "I can vouch for Commander Talos," I said, surprising myself almost as much as everyone else in the room. All eyes turned to me. Her methods may be unconventional, but her word is good. If she says this technology will help us defeat the Devourers, I believe. Her Vox stared at me like I'd sprouted a fifth eye. "You can't be serious, Zorlak. After what happened at Proxima. Especially after what happened at Proxima," I replied firmly. "I have seen what humans can accomplish when they put their minds to something particularly this human." I nodded toward Lyra. She inclined her head slightly in acknowledgement, a gesture so subtle that doubted anyone else noticed it. After much debate, the council agreed to implement Lyra's integration protocols, not out of trust, but out of desperation. As the representatives filed out, top repair their respective fleets, Lyra approached Vox and me. "Thank you for your integration protocol proposal support, Zorlak," she said, unexpected but appreciated. "Don't thank me yet, Commander. If this fails, we will all be Devourer digestive material together." She laughed, a genuine sound that took me back to our last conversation. In my office on Proxima. "Fair enough, Admiral Tana, if you will. Excuse us, I believe Zorlak and I have some catching up to do." Vox looked between us, clearly puzzled by our familiarity, but too polite to comment on it. "Of course, Commander, I should oversee the integration process on the Valari vessels anyway," and he departed with a formal bow. When we were alone, Lyra's professional demeanor softened slightly. "You never finished telling your story earlier. What happened after you were sent home in disgrace?" I raised an eye-age in surprise. "You have been eavesdropping on my conversations. I make it a point to know what my allies are saying about me," she replied with a shrug. "Especially former security chiefs who let 300 of my people escape. I didn't let you do anything," I protested, echoing my earlier words to Vox. No, those green eyes sparkled with amusement. "Then why did you disable the motion sensors in the Eastern Corridor? Why did you accidentally leave your security credentials logged in on a terminal near the hangar? Why did you schedule the guard rotation to create a 6-minute gap in coverage exactly when we needed it?" I felt my scales flush with heat. "You knew not at the time," she admitted it. "Halt, we were just lucky, or that my planning was better than I'd hoped. It wasn't until years later, when we captured a Proxima Corporation data core, that I saw the security logs very sloppy. Work, Zorlak, almost like you wanted to get caught, or like I wanted you to succeed," I said quietly. her expression sobered. Why I considered my answer. Carefully, the truth was complicated, wrapped in layers of guilt, curiosity, and something like admiration because the system was wrong. I finally said, I didn't realize how wrong until he met you. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee. It couldn't keep participating in it. Lyra studied me for a long moment, then nodded. So what happened after? Proxima, the official records say, you died in a transport accident on the way back to Zith Major, did they? Now it chuckled convenient. For everyone, I suppose the truth is less dramatic. I was halfway home when I received another message on my personal communicator who coordinates for a rendezvous point Osender. But I had my suspicions. The Liberation Fleet Lyra guessed not yet back then. You were just a ragtag group of escapes, but you had friends in unexpected places. A Zith cultural anthropologist named Kella had been advocating for human rights for years. Her work was considered fringe radical, but she had connections, resources, and she recruited you. I nodded. She showed me evidence of what was really happening across the galaxy, not just to humans, but to dozens of species classified as subscient and exploited. Accordingly, the Proxima Corporation was just one small piece of a much larger system of oppression, so Sorlak's secret revealed, you became a spy, Lyra said, understanding dawning in her eyes, an informant initially feeding intelligence to Kayla's network, which eventually made its way to your growing resistance later when you'd established your first permanent base. I came to work with you, directly under a different name. Of course, Lyra's brow furrowed in concentration. Then her eyes widened. Advisor Toro. That was you? I bowed slightly at your service, but Torlok had facial markings, a different vocal pattern. Amazing what modern cosmetic modifications can accomplish, I replied with a wink of my third eye. The voice modulator was particularly uncomfortable but necessary. 10 years, she said, shaking her head in disbelief. You have been working for the human resistance for 10 years, and I never knew working with not for. I corrected gently, and that was the point. My value was in my anonymity. Former Security Chief Sorlak believed dead could move through certain circles, that Advisor Torlok could not like the Galactic Council. She realized you are the one who got us the intelligence on the Council's defense grid and the Krell breeding facility, and guilty as charged I admitted, though. I had helped Kella's network grew substantially over the years. Why reveal yourself now? Because after today, it won't matter anymore. Either we defeat the Devourers and the old order changes forever, or we fail and none of our secrets will matter. Lyra's communicator chimed, interrupting our conversation. The fleet is ready, Commander. A voice reported, integration protocols at 97%. Effectiveness acknowledged. I will be on the bridge shortly. She closed the channel and looked at me. It seems our reunion will have to be cut short, Sorlak. Or should I call you Torlok? Sorlak is fine, I said with a small smile. Torlok served his purpose. She extended her hand, a human G.